It's still preparing. Okay. And we are live.
Great. Thank you, Patrice. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the February 28th, 2024 MAPC Executive Committee meeting. My name is Erin. As you may or may not know, I am MAPC's president, and I would like to call the meeting to order. Since we are participating remotely via Zoom, I just want to remind everyone that if you keep your camera on, which I hope you do, if you can see us, we can see you. So just be mindful of that as the meeting progresses. Additionally, this meeting is being recorded and will live on in syndication on youtube.com. And with that, I'm going to call the roll. So if everyone could come off mute.
Oh, Erin, you're now on mute.
Yeah, thank you for that. I hit the space bar by mistake here. All right, because I do paper. I'm a little old school. Anyway, here we go. Imai.
Present.
Colette.
Present.
Kurt.
Present.
Keith.
Present.
Karen.
Present.
Jen Constable. Absent. Tom Daniel.
Present.
Don DePriest.
Present.
Thomas. Mo.
Present.
Oh, sorry about that. Mo. Sagoon. Jared. Tabor.
Here.
Angie.
Here.
Gina. Steve O.
Steve O, not present.
Courtney. Vandana.
Present.
Claire.
Present.
Sam.
Here.
Steve S.
Present.
Juan.
Present.
Elaine.
Present.
And Erin. Present. Thank you all for joining. This is one of the more robust attended Zoom meetings we've had, I'll say, in 2024, since this is only our second meeting in. But that's
it must be the great food, I'm sure.
or company, who knows? Okay, great. So next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from January 17th, 2024. Are there questions or comments on those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by John DePriest.
Second.
Second made by Tabor. Roll call is required. So if everyone could come off mute again, we're going to kind of, oh, I'm sorry. I know, I'm not used to the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Mark, where are you?
I'm here.
Or Lizzie.
It's fine. You can just say that it's going to be postponed to the consent agenda unless anyone objects.
Okay. We are going to put that to the consent agenda unless anyone objects. Great. Thank you so much. I am just not used to that yet.
We'll get used to it.
Or not, and we'll just keep it moving. All right, next up on the agenda is the Treasurer's Report. Treasurer Sam, take it away.
Thank you, President Erin. Hello, everybody. Treasurer Sam here with two items for your consideration and hopefully your approval. The first item is the December 2023 income statement, which we will review very quickly because we want to get on to the mid-year budget, which is also on our docket. You all should have received the December 2023 income statement. There's nothing particularly I want to highlight because, in fact, we're going to delve into some of these things in a little more detail in the mid-year budget. But basically, December gets us through 6 months out of the year. As always, I use the overhead rate as our quick sort of temperature gauge about how we're doing. I would only note that our direct labor in the month of December was at 85% and our total administrative expenses were at 88%. That's a little lower than obviously than what we budgeted, but there's always fluctuation in there. You'll see that that is due mostly because of some vacant positions and some overhead expenses that weren't realized. When we go out to the 6-month number, so the cumulative numbers on the right-hand side of the page, you'll see that we're running an overhead. Well, let me actually backtrack to the December number. Those numbers lead to an overhead rate of 129.3%, which is higher than our 123% that's approved, and that's the number we aim for at the end of the year. But it's actually quite helpful because if you look to the right-hand side in the cumulative 6-month number, we're at 120.3%. So that 120% has to come up a little bit. We want that to come up a little bit, and it's fully our expectation that we'll get there. But we're still at the 6-month period. The only other point that I'll make, and you'll see this also at the mid-year budget, is that the net increase to fund balance is at $220,000 cumulative for the first half of the year. That's a higher number than we typically would have, but it's a good thing, bad thing. Interest rates are higher than we expect, so all the money that we have parked waiting to do projects is also earning money, and that explains that higher number. That concludes the December 2023 income statement. If there are any questions on that, we're happy to take that. If not, I think that could be moved to the consent agenda and we could go to the mid-year budget at this point.
Okay. Any questions for Sam on the December 2023 financial statement?
Seeing none. Yeah, sorry, Aaron, please.
No, it's okay. Do I take a motion to put it on the consent agenda?
You take a motion to approve the treasurer's report. And that can be put on the consent agenda, yes.
Okay. Looking for a motion then.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tabor.
Wellesley seconds.
Okay, motion made by Tabor and second by Colette. And with that, it goes on the consent agenda. Sorry about all this confusion, everyone. But all right, Sam, take it away.
All right, so our next item is the mid-year budget, which is something we do every year. It's something that everybody at MAPC insists upon because it allows us to get just a better sense of where we are in the middle of the year and gives us a better read on what the numbers are. We've gotten through half the year, and so we have pretty accurate numbers for those, and we can project now to the final June 30th, so we can land the plane, as people like to say. You received basically 3 items that we're going to review. One is a summary budget document, which is a here in legal on portfolio, and then you have a revenue budget summary as well, which is just a regular piece of paper here, and then you have an expenditure summary. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the summary budget, sort of 30,000 foot. Then we'll spend a half a minute on the revenue budget and a half a minute on the expenditure budget, just to give you a sense of what's going on.
And Sam, could I just ask that, I don't know if this is you, Sam, or if it's my staff, but we should put these documents sequentially up on the screen.
Okay, what do you say, Mark?
Will do. Bear with me one moment and I will share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. While we're doing that, and thank you, Mark, and also thank you, since I'm glad it's not my responsibility, because that would be. But the only other thing I'd say is, as I was reviewing these documents, I looked back at some of my notes from last year, and there's no reason you need to remember this, but last year we had a lot of items in the mid-year budget. This year is a much more normal process. We're really just truing up these numbers, and it's a less of a heavy lift here. So what you're going to see is we did a pretty good job at the beginning of the year, and we're just making adjustments based on the information we've got so far. Now, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. And we're going to talk about the revenue summary first.
So first one is the summary budget, which is it's a legal size landscape, is what I meant to say.
Okay.
And that's just.
All right, bear with me. I believe I have it and I'm going to put it up. Okay. All right, bear with me. All right, is this the correct screen?
Yes, that looks exactly right. So that's what we're looking at here. And this is really the 30,000 foot view. And I'm just going to bring your attention to a couple of items so you can get a sense or a flavor of what's going on. As I say, the initial budgeting 6 months ago was good. It was solid. Now these are adjustments. I'll note a couple of items just to sort of bring your attention to them. On the total revenue, you see that we're down $1,406,000. The reason for that, just to get you sort of into the workings of MAPC, is that there are two large grants that came through that have sort of shifted in their time frame or in their status. The first is a federal highway grant that came into MAPC for a lot of work. That grant has been in large part moved over to CTPS. So it's coming off of the books of MAPC. It's going over to CTPS. The work is going to be done, but it's going to be done by them primarily. So it's coming off of our books as a revenue item. The other large component of that is the Homeland Security grants are deferred into out years, and that is a fairly common event. I understand that that's almost every year that happens, but it accounts for a decrease that gets us up to basically 1.4 million. If you go right below that, you'll see the direct non-staff project costs, and that again is a decrease of 1,176,000. Pretty much all of that is pass-through money. So that's money that comes into MAPC, is recorded as revenue, and then goes out and is recorded as an expenditure. That money is delayed or postponed. It's not happening in this 6 month period that we're looking forward at. So we've decreased that number there. A couple of other items that I want to just bring your attention to. If we go down to internal operating expenses and the direct labor line, which is the first one that we see there, it's down 144,000. The reason for that is not as many interns were hired, and the overall vacancy rate is a little bit higher in the agency than was projected in the beginning of the year. So that accounts for that. And then if we go down one more working line there, we see the admin, labor, and employee benefits. So these are people who bill directly to the admin accounts, not to sort of client work. And the reason that number is down at 234,142 is that a senior counsel, which is a lawyer, it took longer to bring that person on board, and actually they're not actually full-time yet. So that number is coming down. And then there's the deputy executive director position, which was Catherine's, for those people who remember Catherine, that's her position. That has not been filled yet. And so we're decreasing the amount of money that we budgeted towards that. And that accounts for those decreases. Other numbers I'll just bring to your attention. If we go down, straight down in the middle column, we're going right down to increase in fund balance. You'll see that number's at 275,000 overall. That's an increase of 200,000. That's the number that we saw earlier, where we're frankly just making more money because of interest rates on things. So that number has been bumped up in the budget. And then below that in the center column, we'll see excess revenue to be realized in FY24, FY25 of 76,551. That is money that appears in this, but it's work that we're going to push off into the out years. And it's that story with MAPC that there is plenty of work to do. There's plenty of money behind that work, but it's just hard to get to all the work in the calendar year, in the fiscal year. And so that's money that's going to be pushed out. Most importantly, for all of us and for the concerns that I'm always thinking about, is that the overhead rate is going to stay the same at 1.23, 123%. We expect to meet that number, but that accounts for budget summary. I hope that I have given enough detail there. Why don't I pause for a second and see if there are any questions? And if not, we'll then just jump into some specifics so you can get a better sense of where some of these numbers are coming from. So questions, thoughts, comments?
No, Sam, you walked us through perfectly because my questions were all answered.
Good, good. Well, that's great news. Let's just look at the revenue numbers now for just briefly. So that's going to be a new page, Patrice, revenue budget summary.
So Sam, that previous page is the only thing that's going to be delivered to
The council.
the council,
Yes.
and that this next set of work is just for us, for our eyes.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
Tabor, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Patrice.
Oh, so Sam, the next page is the revenue summary mid-year budget update, draft number 1.
Could be. I have revenue budget summary at the top of the page that I'm looking at. So
Okay.
that's
I can pull it up, Patrice.
All right. Thank you, Anna.
Okay. Back. Let's see what I can share.
Are you a co-host, Anna?
Yep.
I think I can do it. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep. That's the page. I'm just going to bring your attention. So this is money that's coming in to the agency, and this is our revised budget number. And I just want to bring your attention to a couple of things just so you can get a sense or a flavor of what's going on. In that first group, local grants and contracts, the third line down is local technical assistance. And you see that that's up. That's going to increase by 2.3 million. Those are all the projects that don't appear in the initial budget because we're not certain that they're actually going to happen, though we think they probably might happen. And then between then and now, they come in as actual projects, and they're always budgeted very conservatively. So it's, really has to be high on people's list. And MAPC, I think every year I've been doing this, outperforms that number. And so you see an increase of projects and money coming into the agency by 2.3 million. That's good news. It's just a lot of work, and you have to have the staff to do that work, but we like that problem. And then we'll go down just a little bit to public safety in the state grants and contracts. And you see that's down by 1,011,000. Those I understand are the Homeland Security grants that are just delayed, taking longer. We're not going to get to that work in the next 6 months. So that number's down. And then we'll just go down to Bar Foundation under foundation support and other, down by about 500,000. Again, that's really the same story. The money's there. The work is being pushed out. You'll see in the right-hand column that $1.9 million, almost $2 million, is being pushed out, deferred for future fiscal years. So overall, the revenue story is very good. There's lots of work to do. There's plenty of support to do that work. And now the challenge for the agency is just to get people on tasks and try to manage the whole process. But that's the revenue side. And I think if we just keep going, we can switch over to the expenditure side. So that's money coming in. We can look at money going out now. And once we get through that, that will conclude the mid-year budget summary, but probably worth just showing everybody.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that, we still have almost $18 million already committed for future years in this last column to the right. So it's all good.
Yeah,
we have lots of work to be done.
Plenty of work.
Yep.
Plenty of work and plenty of money behind that work. So those are good things. Yes, and well done. So let's switch over to expenditure just briefly, and then that will conclude the treasurer's report.
Okay. Let's see if I can pull the other one up for you. Just takes a minute. It's kind of slow. Can you see this new one?
Expenditure budget. Yes.
The overhead expenditure report. Okay.
Yeah, that looks good. I'm just going to make some points that we've actually already covered. Under personnel, you see some of those numbers are down. The admin salaries is down by 175,000. Those are unfilled positions, including the counsel, the lawyer position that's just being filled now, and the deputy executive director that hasn't yet been filled. A couple of lines down from that, professional development time. I think it was an ambitious number to budget 416,000. It just hasn't been used at that rate yet, so we're just reducing that number. I think that's still a goal of the agency to reach that professional development time, but people are working very hard, and it's hard for them to take time out of their busy schedules to do that work, do that professional development. But I think it's very much in the goal. And then if we go down to benefits, I just want to pull out one other number, which is about just one up from the bottom. Employee benefit improvement, that's going to go up $110,000 in this next 6 months of the mid-year budget. That is part of the larger benefit package expansion that MAPC spent a lot of last year working on. And frankly, that was one of the issues we spent a lot of time on in last year's mid-year budget. That is just an expansion. FMLA is going up, or has gone up, I believe, from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. And there are lots of other components to that, but it's basically all part of that. Operational services down below that in a sort of broader category. We're still in a hybrid work mode, and it's honestly less expensive than we projected to support the office part of the hybrid side of that. So those numbers are by and large going down. And that really concludes the expenditure report there. Open to any questions, comments, or thoughts at this point. And if not, this, I believe, could go to the consent agenda unless we want to vote on it now. But I should note as just a final note, the Finance Committee met earlier this month and reported this out favorably with a favorable recommendation to the Executive Committee. So that's where it stands. The Executive Committee, procedurally, the task now is to report this out if so desired, hopefully with a favorable recommendation to the full council. And that concludes the treasurer's report.
Great, thank you,
So,
Sam. Mark, did you have something to say?
Strangely, no.
Oh, okay, you just came off mute. Okay, great.
Glad to answer questions if people have them, but
Yes, if anyone has any questions, Patrice, we are good with not sharing anymore.
Okay.
it's Anna who's sharing now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Anna.
stop sharing.
Yep, perfect. You are
Am I good
unshared.
now? Am I good?
Yeah, yep, you're
Okay.
good.
Great. Thank you.
What I'm thinking is because the vote to recommend adoption to council, I am going to recommend that we don't put it on the consent agenda. Let's just do a clean vote. So I'm looking for a motion to recommend adoption to the council.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
okay, great. Motion made by Imai, second by Kurt. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, great. So if everyone could come off mute, roll call is required. I appreciate it. Here we go. Imai,
Aye.
Colette,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Mo, Sagoon, Jared, Tabor,
Aye.
Angie,
Aye.
Gina, Stephen O,
Aye.
Courtney, Vandana,
Aye.
Claire,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Steve S,
Aye.
Juan,
Aye.
Elaine,
Aye.
and Erin, yes. Just to be clear, Steve Silvera, that was a yes, right?
Correct.
Okay, before I want you to say it was a unanimous adoption, I just wanted to make sure that I got your vote correctly. And with that, the executive committee has unanimously recommended adoption to the council. So thank you so much to Anna. Thank you so much to Sam. Thank you so much to the finance committee. Thank you for everyone who's involved with this mid-year budget and presentation. So thank you so much for that.
Excellent presentation, Sam.
Yes,
As always.
yes, for sure. Oh, yes, Mark.
So Aaron, I wonder if it might be possible before we move on to the next item to take the matter under other business that you and I discussed shortly before the meeting, because it is a financial matter.
I'm fine with that. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So, as you know, we receive a substantial amount of our funds, about 2 million a year out of the 7-8 million in operating revenue from the Department of Revenue as a municipal, what is known as the municipal assessment, which is money that is collected from cities and towns. It's on the cherry sheet. It is per capita based. It is not, we don't get 101 separate checks from individual cities and towns. It's all mitigated through the Department of Revenue. We have historically approved a 2.5% increase in that assessment budget, which is the amount we are allowed under Proposition 2.5 at every winter council meeting. But the required document that we need in order to accomplish that has to come from the Department of Revenue, where they give us the official amount of money that would be paid by each municipality. This year, we struggled to get that document from DOR, allegedly because they are understaffed. So, which I know is something that none of you have ever heard of before. So it came through on Monday evening, less than 2 days ago. And it's a little bit awkward to try and bring it up under other business because it is a charge to our cities and towns. But it is also problematic to wait until the council meeting in May, because we will be presenting to the council meeting a budget for FY25 that would be contingent in part on the adoption of the revised assessment numbers, which would not at that point have yet been approved by council. So what I am going to do is I am going to actually hit send right now on the new document that came from DOR. I have sent it to all of the members of the executive committee. You'll see it come in your email. It feels a little unfair to ask the executive committee to recommend it to council and urge council to adopt it. Although if you wish to do that, obviously that would be fine. The alternative that Aaron and I are suggesting is that you could vote to give the officers authority to review the document and make a recommendation to council as they see fit, because officers are meeting next Monday on March 4th, and would have a little more time to review the document, and then it would be added, presuming that they approve it, it would be added to the agenda for the meeting on March 6th of the council. It is a straight 2.5% increase. Normally, these changes are mitigated by changes in population, so that a community might go up by a little less than 2.5% if they're not growing, or they might go up by a little more than 2.5% if they are growing. However, perhaps because of their staffing shortage, the Department of Revenue apparently is unable to give us their annual revised population numbers. And so they have chosen to simply keep the population numbers the same. That is a little bit annoying to me, as you can perhaps tell from my voice, but these are not our numbers. They come from DOR, and DOR has told us they can't adjust the population numbers this time around. So there is the document before you. I think that's a pretty thorough explanation of this rather unusual circumstance. I apologize that it is being brought up so late, but in this case, it was not our fault at all. I am open to turning this back over to you, Erin, and determining how the executive committee wishes to proceed.
Mark, did you, can you just make sure you hit send?
Well, it came back to me. Have
Yeah,
people received it?
I did not receive it.
I have it, but I'm not a host, so I can't put it on the screen. But I'm glad to if someone wants to make me a host.
Yeah, I've not received it either.
All right, bear with me a second here.
Like I said, if someone wants to make me a host, I can put it up.
And we
Great.
should
Did
do
you do
that
that?
regardless,
Oh,
but
we'll do Lizzie.
Okay.
Thanks, Patrice.
I was like, I don't have that option.
I have another, it's Keith, I have another suggestion, Aaron, when you're accepting comment.
Okay.
I would note that my email indicates that this has gone out to the executive committee and it is not sitting in the inbox, in the
Okay.
outbox.
I
I'm
received
perplexed
it.
by that.
Mine just arrived. So.
Okay.
It's now arriving.
Well, let's start with, I still have not received it. Thank you,
Okay,
Lizzie.
well,
for
Lizzie is
pulling
putting it
that.
up.
But let's,
Thank you.
maybe we can get to questions first or comments. Colette, you had your hand raised first and then Keith. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I think at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but the only choice we have to make is, do we take the 2.5% or do we take less? And I think I would certainly say maybe it's helpful for us to give feedback to the officers so that they have that when they're thinking about this. But given that our expenses are largely driven by personnel costs, and personnel costs are certainly not hovering around 2.5%, they're higher if anything. I can't imagine any scenario where we would elect to take less than 2.5%. So to the extent that that's a somewhat binary decision here, it's 2.5% or less. I would certainly say I would support the officers in any decision to take the full assessment increase. Because our costs are certainly outstripping that. I hope that's helpful. And I don't know
Very
in the
helpful.
future
And very accurate.
Right. But I don't know if in the future, when if a situation like this comes up, we can amend the agenda and send out the information so we could have a discussion, because it's not, this one I think is, even though it's a big decision, it's not a difficult decision. But anyway, for what it's worth.
Great. Thank you, Colette. Keith.
Hi, Keith Bergman, from the perspective of having been MAPC president when we've had objections from the floor at annual the meetings when it has come up, and since those who are not on this executive committee who might read our agenda to see what issues are coming up would not have found that this important matter, this routine but important matter, is not on our agenda. While I have no problem in entrusting the officers to make an informed recommendation on our behalf, I think that we might as well identify there's one other option that we could do, and it's to have another executive committee meeting, even if only moments prior to the council meeting. So that's just another option. I don't feel very strongly about it, but I do recall a time when there was objection from the floor, and I just want to make sure that the procedures that we follow are correct. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. My IT firewall has finally allowed me the document.
Oh, great. Good.
Yes, me as well.
Yes. Chelsea and Stoneham. They are like the pillars, I guess, right? All right, great. So thank you for that. Does anyone feel particularly passionate of one of the three options?
Well, I would, if
go
I
ahead,
may-
Mark.
Sorry, Keith, did you want to add something further?
Yeah, I just had one comment to make, and I guess it's about the DOR's failure to adjust the population from one year to the next. While that may not, I'm just pointing out, if they do that next year, then for whatever reason, the prison population at MCI Concord, which is a large number, will not be accurately reflected in what Concord's revised population should be. So I'd urge if we do have the officers make the recommendation on our behalf, I'd urge the officers and the staff to express to DOR our chagrin at not having the population figures adjusted, because that happens every other time this comes up. Thanks.
Yeah, I can pledge that we will be discussing this issue with DOR and trying to encourage them to make an adjustment. I mean, these are not census numbers. As you know, it's only census numbers once a decade, but the state historically has provided annual estimates for each municipality. They are only estimates, but they do provide annual estimates, and those are usually the numbers that are used. We will do our best to make sure that that does not happen next year.
Thank you. Yes, good point. Keith, when you were talking, I actually just pulled up because our town's numbers look a little low. And not that I think the town wants to pay a lot more, but I mean, it's lower than the 2020 census, and we have not dipped in population since then. So, okay, Steve Silvera.
So the document, just to Keith's last point, the document says at the top the population estimates do not include inmate institutions.
Yeah.
So these are voluntary members of Concord, not involuntary members of Concord.
Yeah, Steve is right. It is my understanding that now I am recalling from having read the law a long, long time ago that I think they do subtract inmate populations.
Well, whilst these numbers are higher, Erin, so we're offsetting your lower numbers.
Well, I think your budget can probably accommodate it better than ours. So I'm happy that you've taken that for us. So thank you. Is there a motion so we kind of have three pathways, right, before us, or three options. One is the executive, if anyone wants to make any of these motions, is that the executive committee can vote to send a recommendation to council. Option two is that the executive committee can vote to ask the officers to vote at their upcoming officers meeting to provide that recommendation to council. Or option C is that this executive committee meets prior to Wednesday's meeting to hold a formal vote.
And if I may, Erin, just a comment on the third one. Keith, while I certainly understand the logic behind your recommendation, it's a little problematic for two reasons. One is, I just want to emphasize to everybody, we are not starting this council meeting at 9:30. We're starting it at 9. And the reason we're doing that is because Secretary Augustus needs to speak immediately at 9. So I just don't, I'm a little reluctant to engage my staff in another Zoom meeting beforehand when they are already very actively working on the much more complicated issue of lining up the council meeting and making sure everything works. The other problem is we want to include this item on the council agenda. And even if we do it on officers, to be perfectly frank, we'll probably miss the 48-hour deadline by about an hour. But if we don't have it until right before, it's really pretty much impossible for us to add anything to the council agenda. So my hope would be that either the council would, the executive committee would simply feel comfortable providing their own recommendation now, or hand it off to the officers to do.
Thanks, Mark. Colette?
So can I just confirm, Mark, we are making a recommendation for council, or are we making the vote?
No, you're making a recommendation to council.
I mean, so in that case, why don't we today, get some consensus from this board as to how we feel based on the information we've got to date, how we feel we should go, and then delegate the authority to make the recommendation to the officers, because it's just a recommendation. The vote's done by council. I understand there might be objections possibly from the floor, but I think there's a reasonable defense that we give our consensus that we were in support of this if we are, and that we delegated the authority to make the recommendation to the officers to have more time for deliberation, and that their recommendation based on our consensus should be enough.
Tom?
Yeah, I was actually taking a different approach. I'm comfortable voting now. There's not more, I think, for me that I need to deliberate on. Those of us that have served previously are familiar with this, so I'm comfortable voting. I would go either way, but I'm comfortable. I just want to let folks know I'm comfortable proceeding right now.
So Tom, is that a motion?
Sure, I will make that motion. Thanks.
I will
second.
That the executive committee vote to recommend this to the full council to adopt at the winter council meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by John DePriest. Questions, comments, concerns? Keith?
I think my only remaining concern would be that this was not on our agenda, or that it wasn't even on an amended agenda. And I haven't had time to look up the MAPC bylaws to see if there's some procedural requirement that that governs here, but it could have been resolved I think even by amending the agenda yesterday and posting that amended agenda, because it would have fallen into the category of something that the convening officer was unaware of at the time the agenda was posted. So that's what I'm left with, and so I'll vote no on a motion to advance it on the count from the council. It needs to be on the agenda for the officers. If the officers need to meet on Friday instead of Monday, you should do that. If you need to post an agenda on Friday for next Wednesday. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. Karen?
Yeah, I'll echo. Keith just said, procedurally, I think I have no problem voting on the substance, and I think that Colette completely articulated why it is a pretty important but simple. But I think procedurally, I'd feel more comfortable if we supported the executive council committee reviewing it and having it sort of out there that this is going on. I think procedurally just feels better for the final recommendation. So I would not be supporting the current motion.
And when you say that, you mean that the officers?
Yes, sorry.
No,
How many layers?
We're on the same page. Yes, Mark. Mark and I talked about procedure prior to this meeting. So Mark, do you want to give a little?
Yeah. Yeah, there was some difference of opinion about whether or not we could amend the agenda, and particularly the specific issue was, were we allowed to send out a document in regard to a matter that was going to come up under as a non-agenda item, so to speak. I don't want to get into all of that. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't, in some ways, it's neither here nor there. But we did think about that, Keith, and there was some feeling that we couldn't send out a document in regard to an amendment that didn't have 48 hours. So, which was the reason that I weirdly only hit send when I had raised the item on the agenda, which was not the way I would normally have handled it. This item, I'm just going to give my personal opinion here if I can. This item has always been referred to council by a unanimous vote. If members are uncomfortable for the very solid reasons they have articulated, voting in favor of this motion. But if they would be comfortable with the executive committee referring this to the officers and the officers taking a vote and us making sure that the officers meeting is early enough that we can post it properly, then I think we can do that. And I think, I mean, just speaking for myself, it's your vote, it's not mine, but speaking for myself, I would prefer that because I would be reluctant to go to council with a less than unanimous vote. We've never done that in the past.
Tom Daniel.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
happy to amend my motion so that it would be to refer it to the officers. I like what you said, Mark, about posting it in a manner such that you meet the noticing requirement.
Okay. And John DePriest is the second. Are you in agreement with that amendment?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, great. So the motion now before us is that the executive committee refer this matter to the officers to render a recommendation to the full council for vote at the winter council meeting. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, great. All right, if everyone could come off mute and use my paper here, time for the vote. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Jen. Tom.
Aye.
Mo. Sagoon. Jared. Tabor.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve Olenoff. Courtney.
Oh, aye. Steve
Oh,
Olive.
okay. Sorry, Steve. I was a little quick on that. Courtney Vandana.
Aye.
Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Juan Vega.
Aye.
Elaine.
Aye.
And
Li-
Erin. Aye.
Aaron, you skipped me. I vote aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
No, not a problem.
Sorry, John. Okay, and with John's vote, the
Aaron,
motion
you skipped me
passes
too.
unanimously to refer the matter to officers. Did I miss you, Tom, too?
Yep. Aye.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, with John and Tom.
Maybe Jen as well, Aaron, unless I missed it, but I.
Okay, so with everyone's vote, the matter passes unanimously to refer this to the officers for recommendation to the council. Thank you all. That was a very lively discussion. I don't know if we've had a discussion like this. Very thoughtful, and I really appreciate the conversation because I think it was very thoughtful and intentional. So thank you for that. Okay, can we get back on track now, Mark?
I think we can get back on track. I believe
Okay.
I'm up next. Is that right?
You are, but I'm eyeballing the time, Mark. Since your
I
other
think
business
you've all received
a lot of the clock.
You've all received the executive director's report. It's a fairly short one. You know, we're going on this new mode now of asking departments to only provide the 2 to 4 most important things that have happened in the last month. And that enables us to both have reports on a monthly basis, not every other month, but to keep them considerably shorter. So you're now receiving 9-page documents compared to like 36-page documents that you used to receive. I don't feel a compelling need to go through it. I encourage everyone to review it. And if there are any questions about ongoing activities at the agency, policy or planning, please call Lizzie or me. We'd be glad to help.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark. Okay, next up on the agenda is the Legislative Committee report. I'm going to call on Keith, who's not just the past president, but also the Legislative Committee chair. Take it away, Keith.
Thanks very much, Aaron. The Legislative Committee did not meet this month, but since the last Executive Committee meeting a month ago, we've all been busy. I'll let the staff say all that they've been doing. I have testified on two major initiatives that were in front of the legislature on January 18th, the Affordable Homes Act, and yesterday, the Municipal Empowerment Act, and delighted to be asked to be part of an MAPC panel and to just again see all the great work that's being done on our behalf. So I would, I'm looking for.
Leia is just rejoining. She was
I was like, I just let
Okay,
her in the
very
room.
good. I didn't
I
see
just
her.
got
All
her
right,
back. She was in a
very
meeting
good.
with
So
some of our colleagues at MMA. Here she is.
very good. So I'll call on Leia Robbins to take it from here. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Keith. So there are a couple major bills that are continuing to move through the legislature that we've talked about, some new ones that are sprinkling in, and then I want to give you an update on kind of where we are with the budget and some of the ways we're hoping that you will be able to engage with us in that process. So one is the Affordable Homes Act, had its hearing since we last met. There was 11 plus hours of testimony. Lots of folks from this group were among those folks offering testimony. It went until like 11 something at night. Keith's own daughter was the very last person to offer testimony via Zoom, which was really, really cool. That bill has the committee is continuing to take a look at it. This is a joint committee on housing. They've given themselves until April 18th to review the bill. So we are having conversations with the committee members and committee staff to see where they have questions and how we as an agency can be helpful in their process, and working closely with our MARPA sister agencies to make sure they're also weighing in, because many of the legislators are in our region, but not all of them. We've also been really up to our elbows in the Municipal Empowerment Act bill that the governor filed. So there are 2 hearings this week on that bill. We were before the Municipalities Committee yesterday on a number of the different policy provisions. Some of the ones that we've talked about most around this table have been the COVID era policies that would be permanently extended. So that's the open meeting law, the ability for municipalities to offer outdoor dining with liquor licenses outside, and liquor to go from restaurants. And then a couple of procurement items, including near and dear to my heart, a collective procurement measure that Mark Fine had worked on when he was here at MAPC that made it into the final bill. And then some finance stuff that would never make the headlines, but is so freaking cool. Amortization of debt when there's a declared emergency disaster over 3 years rather than 1 year. There's 80 policy provisions in this proposal. There's a lot that we're really thrilled about. And then tomorrow, the Revenue Committee is going to be hearing some of the local option revenue raising portions of the bill. So this is the governor proposed an ability for municipalities to raise the meals and hotels tax, to raise motor vehicle excise at a rate of 5%, and a couple of the other provisions related to finance. So that's tomorrow, and we'll have a panel there as well. Really, we've been working hard to bring in some of our smaller communities. Tomorrow, Nahant is going to be joining our panel, one of our smallest. So we know these are things that impact our largest cities and our smallest cities. So we're really trying to bring that representation to the State House. We're also hearing that there could be an economic development bill this week, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, who knows? Everyone cross fingers and toes. From what I've heard, it's going to be an interesting bill for us to dig in on. There's definitely a lot of things in the legislature's docket right now for them to be considering. So lots of conversations that we're having to try to make sure these good measures that are in place keep moving. The last item I just want to briefly mention is the fiscal budget. The governor released it back in January. It included level funding for Shannon and DLTA, which are those two small programs that we at MAPC watch very, very closely. We follow many line items and advocate for a lot, but those are two that no one else really advocates for but us. So that's why you hear us talking about those programs so much more than some of the other programs that do have quite a large impact on the region. And right now, all of the agencies are going out on a roadshow, testifying before the Joint Ways and Means Committees. It's a great way to sort of hear what the agencies are advocating for and how they're thinking of spending those dollars. So we're always sort of listening in and engaging with agency staff on those issues. And then we're gearing up our advocacy with legislators to make sure they know about the programs that we're really excited about and the importance of DLTA and about the work we've been doing with communities to apply for federal funds, since that is a newer effort that we've been able to do based on last year's budget. So to that end, we are having our second annual DLTA Day at the State House. I'll make sure that you guys get the invitation. It would be wonderful to have you with us. We're going to be with Marpa is running the event. And we're doing the government affairs team at MAPC is pulling all the details together. And we're working to set up some legislator meetings alongside that event to help legislators know that that this program exists and what work we're doing in communities across the state. And we are doing our annual Shannon Day on the Hill coming up in just about a month, where we bring together not just Shannon, but community safety programs like SSYI also to the table for a collective day where we bring in some of the most passionate youth speakers that you will ever hear. I think I have yet to leave that event without tearing up at least once. It's a really powerful day, and I really recommend it. If you're still kind of wondering what the Shannon program is and what we're doing with youth violence prevention, it's a great way to see and hear it up close. The community police partners are there, youth are there, and our research partners are there. So those are some of the things that are happening with the legislature right now. I'm gonna look to Georgia, who's on the line, to see if I missed anything in particular. But oh, and our legislative breakfast. Oh my word. We are about to launch our legislative breakfast season in conjunction with the amazing sub-regional coordinators in the program led by Sasha Perotti. So we have almost one a week for the next couple weeks. We start in March. We will get those dates to you. It would be wonderful to have you as executive committee members join those meetings, have conversations with the sub-regional members and with legislators. They will all be in person this year, which is really exciting after having a couple years with some still remote and still on Zoom. We are going to be all over the region, fanning out, and look forward to seeing you over a cup of coffee. And that is, I think, everything I've got.
Great. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Keith. Any questions or comments for our legislative team? Great. All right, next up in the agenda is the DEIA update from Angela Howard. Angela, there you are, and you're on mute still.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to give a brief update. So we are in the final stages of our DEIA assessment. Our consultants have all the data that they need, and they are what I call in the cave writing the report. They've aggregated all of the data in there, and it takes a while to put all that together. So it's not just an end report. There is there are recommendations that are in that as well. And there are also some recommendations for strategic implementation and some resources and guides along the way to help us with some of the things that have been pulled out. So they've probably been at this for about 2 weeks now. So I suspect it'll be a couple of more weeks while they're pulling that together. It will then go in front of the advisory committee. It'll go to Lizzie and Mark as well. And it'll, and so we'll, hopefully we'll be able to roll it out soon. And then the final stage is to go before our employees and also our leadership team, the managers and directors, and have in-person conversations about the final report once the final report is ready to go. So that is the plan that the consultant wanted to make sure that all of the employee groups, because we all have different roles in how we work with the recommendations. So it was decided that we would speak to the employees separate from the managers and directors because they have different roles and different responsibilities as we roll out the recommendation. So that's where we are. Excited about that happening soon, but it is a bit of a waiting game right now. So, but I am looking very much forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much, Angela and Mark. Put in the chat. There'll also obviously be a presentation to us, the executive committee, which I'm sure we're all very much looking forward to.
I did forget that, yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Angela? Great. Well, I think I can speak for everyone when I say I look forward to seeing the presentation and seeing some of the outputs for this. Great. Thank you so much. All right, next up on the agenda, strategic plan update, Eric Code.
Hi there, executive committee members. Nice to see you all. Just want to start with a quick process update and then get into a little bit of kind of where we're at content-wise with the strategic plan. Our consultants, TDC, are starting to set up focus groups and interviews with some external stakeholders. So this includes municipal leaders, peer RPAs from across the country, legislators, state agency, and leaders of community-based organizations. So that's all going to take place over the next month. And meanwhile, we've been working on what we're calling the strategic framework, which is really kind of the bones that we'll be building out the strategies for implementation under. And that includes an updated mission statement, vision statement, values, and the strategic priorities. So we started that conversation with directors to try to get us on the right track. And then we just met 2 days ago with our advisory committee to discuss the current draft. And then we'll also be holding departmental meetings to really bring in the entire staff. And then we're hoping to sit down with all of you at the end of March to really spend like a dedicated chunk of time really diving into the priorities and really discussing with all of you what the top priorities for the next 5 years of the agency should be. So that's what we're scheduled on the books. Just in terms of the draft priorities, like I said, this already gone through a couple iterations and they're still very drafty. So they'll probably continue to evolve. But kind of the second iteration really ended up tracking fairly closely to Metro Commons action areas. These were the areas in the regional plan that we thought what we saw as the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities facing the region and building our work under those categories. So we have one dedicated to climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. We have one that we're calling for now sustainable and equitable development. This is basically kind of an updated messaging of smart growth, but just trying not to use the word smart growth, but really those concepts are still very, very central to the work of the agency. Our equity of wealth and health. So this is everything from the public health work we do to focus on wealth creation and workforce development. And the last kind of topical one is what we're calling something like government partnerships. So basically the support and assistance we provide to local, regional, and state level governments in terms of helping with capacity, technical assistance, and just helping them with the overall effectiveness. So that's kind of where the draft stands. Really looking forward for your feedback on these. And like I said, really looking forward to spending some quality time in person later in March to really dive deep into this with you. In the executive director's report, I did pull out a few of the challenges we're struggling with. I just wanted to mention a couple. You know, these are supposed to be fairly succinct statements in terms of mission, vision, values, and yet we like to explain things. So we're struggling with how to be as kind of plain and clear and succinct as possible, but still not losing, you know, the important content. Trying to balance, you know, who we are today with where we want to go and what we want to do more of. Also trying to balance, you know, we're a fairly big agency and trying to, we do work in many different methods and modes and trying to clearly explain that. And finally, trying to basically update what I mentioned earlier as kind of that smart growth mission, trying to find the right words to describe it that are more accessible and resonate better than that terminology. So I want to stop there, see if anybody has questions, and really looking forward to spending some quality time with you later in March to dig in deeper.
So just to be clear, the goal would be to really dedicate the March 20th executive committee meeting to the strategic plan. There would be as few other items on the agenda as we can manage, and it will be an in-person meeting here at MAPC.
Colette.
So I'm just curious, Eric, I know this work is so important, but it's so hard and it takes forever, and it's not wordsmithing. I mean, that's the wrong word to use, but it's really, I know what you mean, that we all know what smart growth means, but your average person doesn't. And, you know, it took me a year to understand it or so. And so that work is really important, but I think would it be, I'm wondering how far in advance we will get that before we meet so that we can think about it. Because it's as hard as it is to work on it. I don't know about other members here, but I feel I need to hear something 5 times before it sinks in, and reading it,
Yep.
so it's just such a lot to take in. So I'll just make a plea, and I know you probably can't give us a date, but the more time the better, and that's all I'm going to say.
No, we'll definitely commit to getting that out plenty in advance. I mean, I think easily a couple weeks in advance, if not even more, just to give you time to sit with it. And yeah, and it is, you know, it is a challenge. Like, we're trying to right now focus on the concepts and not get hung up on the words, but at the same time, the words do matter. So you know, I think comments and ideas on both kind of the central concepts of what we're trying to convey and the way we're saying it is definitely very welcome.
Well, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other questions on that. Okay, great. I look forward to seeing everyone in person in less than a month. It's very exciting. So you just don't see this much of each of us. I know we did other business previously. Is there any other business?
Thank God, no.
Keeps it interesting. So at this time, because I'm not going to forget, I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn. We're going to pop it on the consent agenda, and then the 3 items on the consent agenda. See, it just took me like almost 2 hours to get here. And then on the consent agenda, we're going to do one vote to vote on the approval of minutes from January 17th, 2024, the December 2023 financial statement, and the adjournment of the meeting. So could I have a motion to adjourn as we vote on the consent agenda?
Second.
Yep.
Okay. Motion made by Tabor, second made by Tom Daniel. Thank you very much for both of you. So at this time, we're going to vote on the consent agenda. Again, that is minutes from January 17th, 2024. The treasurer's report, December 2023 financial statement, and the adjournment of the meeting. I just want to stress again that Wednesday, yeah, are you going to stress again that Wednesday's winter council meeting, Mark, starts at 9 a.m.?
No, but that's a good thing to stress.
Yes, and please be there a little early because we have to do attendance and we have to do quorum calling, hypothetically. That's what we do behind the scenes.
We are,
and I'd like to listen to the secretary speak instead of calling people about quorum. So go ahead, Mark.
If I might just on that, we are trying to figure out a way that we don't have to call the whole darn roll for a council meeting. And the secretary is actually helping us with that, because if we just get enough people to constitute quorum by the time he's done at say 9:30 or so, then I think I've got my chief counsel agreed that we don't need to call all the other names of the people who aren't there, which is basically what we've been doing in the past. The reason I raised my hand was I would just appreciate it if the officers would remain on the call for just a moment so we can determine when we are meeting.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And yes, if that's okay with Jen, I know you have to run, but if we can take 2 minutes of your time, and then Sam as well. Okay, great. Are you all set, Mark?
And Imai. Yeah.
Yes. Did I say Imai? I'm sorry. Imai, Sam, Jen, me. Mark, Lizzie. Got it. And you're good. Yes, Tom, I mentioned that to Mark this morning about the calendar invitation. We're going to work on that. It's also on my calendar for 9:30. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we're going to fix that as well. All right, consent agenda, vote time. Anything else before we take the vote? Great. All right, come off mute, please. Here we go. And I'm not going to forget anyone this time. I'm going to use my finger. All right. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye and bye.
Karen.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Mo. Sagoon. Jared. Tabor.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Courtney. Vandana.
Aye.
Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Juan.
Aye.
Elaine. And Erin. Aye. Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 12:48 p.m. Have a wonderful day and week, and see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.
Thank you all. I would
Thank
just
you.
ask the officers, Lizzie and Anna, to remain on if possible.
All right. Oh, Mark,
Could you stop recording?
yes, I was just about to ask, do you also want me to just end the meeting altogether and have it off of the YouTube, or just the recording?
Just the recording.
Okay.
That's the recording. It doesn't matter. This will be done in a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm
hold
sorry
on,
that
Mark.
took.
Mark. Okay. Now go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Yeah, I'm sorry this took a long time. I'm sorry it was a surprise. I don't think we need to change our meeting time on Monday or place, because I'm just going to put this issue on the council agenda. What's the worst that could happen? You folks could decide on Monday that you are not recommending an increase, and we'll pull it from the council agenda. I'd rather have it on and posted than try and manipulate the times of the meetings so that we can rush a posting out right after the meeting. I don't think it's necessary. We'll just put it on. Is that okay?
Yes. I sent you and Lizzie an email saying that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see that yet.
No, it's fine. I just said, we typically don't say unanimous recommendation from X party anyway. We just say vote from the council, and we do the report out as part of the vote. So.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll put it on the agenda for the council. we'll put it on the agenda for the officers, and that will hopefully take care of it. And next year, maybe we'll be in slightly better shape on this issue.
I mean, if
Okay.
Wellesley wants to pay a little more to supplement me, that's fine with me. But
I was
I am
very
a little
happy
concerned that it's going to eventually jump, to be honest.
Yeah, I was very happy that Colette started the conversation out that way. When she raised her hand, I was worried that she might say, well, there's, it's a hard time financially for cities and towns. We shouldn't do that, but we shouldn't do this. But that's exactly the opposite of what she said. So, all right.
Monday's meeting, officers meeting 9:30 in person.
9:30 at MAPC. That's right. If any of you have emergencies, we'll always have a way to bring you in. But it is my hope that we will be able to meet in person on Monday.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a great week.
And now I will end the YouTube stream.
Okay. Thanks.